And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Almost 10 years ago, I played one of my favorite games ever. For a long time, it was my #1 game, and that was Duel of Ages. I was so excited when I first saw it, a game that could go up to 16 players. And then they added expansion after expansion. Now they finally come out with Duel of Ages 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review this twice. The first review is if you've never played Duel of Ages before, or if you just want to, if you have, but you want to see an overview kind of how the game plays. There's a lot going in this game, so this will not be a complete overview, but what I'm showing you here is the Duel of Ages 2 and the Duel of Ages Master Set. The Master Set does not add barely any rules, and even if it does, all those rules are mentioned, the rulebook comes in this set, but it adds tons of more stuff. So in this game, for example, there is 48 characters in the game, and the Master Set adds
144.
Another 144 characters. This one here has 98 treasure cards, and that one has
302.
Yeah, okay. So you can see lots more comes in this one. Let's take a look at how the game plays, and then we'll tell you what we think. Okay, there's a gazillion things here on the board, and I want to try to explain this as quickly as possible. So let's talk about this. You're building a map, and this map is made up of everything from future areas to modern day to ancient areas to colonial areas. And there's so many different platters that you have. These are called platters, and they're kind of shaped like this. And then these fit together using these things which are called keys. And you can see that there's several keys placed around the board. Many of these keys simply have domes in them. These are domes that your characters will start in and go to from turn to turn. Others of these keys are labyrinths where you will go to complete different missions. So you really can build any size map. Sometimes people play on a 3 map. This is my favorite size map, a 4-person map with different keys. The people are divided into 2 teams, and one team has a black base, the other team has a white base. Players are going to get some characters, and this is the map that they're going to be moving those characters around. Characters are either on the white side or the black side, and they have a bit of background on them to show. You can flip it to either side to use the character. Characters are the whole heart of the game. Characters each come with a very large size card. You can see how big these cards are here. And each of the characters has a pile of stats on them. You can see from the background what age they're from. This guy's from the modern age and he's from the colonial age. And they have a few other stats on them to show like what part of that age they come from, whether they're a male or female. There is a number here for how many movement points they have, for their hit points, then how good they are. Basically the next number is their initiative, then melee, then how much damage how strong they hit, how much their damage is, how good they are at using different kinds of ranged weapons, how good they are at defense, how good their armor is, their strength, their intelligence, their honor, and respect. And so the different colors here are mostly as a way to emphasize. For example, everything goes from 1 to 9, so you can see here that Fen Lin is really good at fighting, and his initiative is an 8, so, or this game calls it wits. He has an 8, and he also has an 8 down here in dodge, so he's very good at that. They also have special abilities here at the bottom, which will make up for any stats they have lost. And you'll notice here that Ned Kelly, not only does he start the game with an equipment card, but he's good at using knives, sniper rifles, and pistols. And so this game comes with quite a few different characters. And these characters can be anything from, this is a war machine from the future. Here we have a spy. Here's a vigilante. We have Brad the Slacker, which always cracks me up. You know, he can do different things. He's really good at dodging, as dodging works. Here we have Grok the Brute. Over here we have Victoria the Daredevil. And really, when you combine both sets, there's so much. Agent 911, which is basically Mr. Bean as a secret agent, and many of these people are completely made up. You can see you haven't heard of these people, but while some of them, like Stephen Decatur here, are actual characters from history, or they're characters from lore like Robin Hood here. And here's Smoke the Infiltrator. So there's a lot of cool things, sometimes urban legends, the Sandman. And you'll find that many of the characters you will identify with, and if you don't know the character itself, like Red River Roy here isn't actually a cowboy, but he's the Roy Rogers archetype. And so you have all these different people. Here's a secret agent. Here's a seer. So you can see that there's just so many different things that you have, different characters that you have that you'll be able to pick from to use. And the players can pick these characters by draft or just by handing them out and picking them. But you're going to have these characters and you're going to be bringing them onto the board. Now, I'm not going to go into the complete process of bringing them onto the board, but it's done using their respect at the bottom, and you'll bring them on in waves until eventually they are all on the board. The game revolves a lot with these challenge cards. There's 2 decks of them, one for each player, or I guess you could use the same deck, doesn't matter. They have a lot of information on them, but one of them is, like, let's say you need a number for a luck roll, whatever, you turn over and there's that. But one of them is to place new characters on the board, or later on when characters move around the board. So that one showed that it goes in an orange 8 or 9 dome, so I could put my character there at the start. And on my turn, first I have free actions that I can take. Then if any of my characters have guns, they can shoot at anybody within range. But mostly my characters are going to be running around. Now, you'll have your characters move around for different reasons. 1, to attack other characters, and 2, to go around and accomplish missions. Moving around the board, there's different types of terrain. That some of the terrain costs more movement points. For example, water here costs 3 to go into. To go into this forest here costs 2. And I actually can't move into this Washington Monument here. But you're going around the board to do a couple things. You will often go around the board to find these little challenges that were scattered at the beginning of the game. And when you go to a challenge, if you meet the ability of that challenge, for example, here's a circus. If you have a 5 or greater in agility, then you beat this, you take the token and put it in front of yourself, and you get a card for completing that challenge. But bigger than completing these challenges, which are over the board, are going to labyrinths. When you go to a labyrinth, you can go to any one of the 3 different spots in the labyrinth, and you attempt a challenge. Now, each challenge has a card that comes with that labyrinth, and you will turn that card over. Here, for example, I'm in the future, and I'm trying to make a missile run. It requires a 7 in the point ability, using point weapons. So, I look at my character card to see what my ability is when I'm going after this challenge. So let's say, for example here, or Pithu the Cave Monster. Well, he's a 0 in the hand, so that's pretty bad. He's at a -7 when accomplishing this goal. So I don't know that he would be worth taking in here at all. While taking in Cassina, the Dragon Queen, she has a 7 as a hand form when she's in her dragon form, so that might be very useful. Or here we have Specialist Najeri, the medic. She's only a 3, but because she's in the future labyrinth, she gets a +1. And if she matched for each other symbol that she matches here, which she doesn't, she would get a +1. So she would be still a -3. So you're trying to take the people into the labyrinth to beat these, who you can do it. The first time you go in the labyrinth, you don't know what challenge you're going to be facing, but as time goes by, let's say someone loses to the challenge, then you can send someone in to go, you know what the challenge is, then you can send the right person in to defeat it. When you do a challenge, you figure out what the number it is to meet it. So let's say I have someone with a 7 hand, and they're also from the future, so they're +1. So I'm a +1 against the challenge. I then will turn over a challenge card, and I look here, and if the attacker is better, 0 to 2, did I beat the challenge? I look at the green smiley face. I look at that on here, and yes, I beat the challenge, which gives me 2 cards, and I am dismissed, and I get to move my marker forward 1. All right, well, let's talk about moving the marker forward first. Depending on what team I'm on, I get to put a marker on the board on whichever one of these paths I decided to do. If I've already have a marker on the board, I would go to that marker and move it forward 1 more, which would give my whole team a bonus. +1 for all future teams when they take adventures, +1 for all future people when they hit, and +1 movement for all my future team members. If the other person's marker is on that one already, and I go there and accomplish a goal, then their marker comes off. Or if it had been farther down, it would move back 1. There can only ever be one team's marker on a specific labyrinth. When you're dismissed, you draw a card and go to the tower that it tells you to go. Sometimes you are banished, and then you must go to the tower that your opponent will pick. They'll draw a card, and we'll say an orange one, and so they get to pick which orange tower on the map you go to. There are other things that you can get. You can see that there's different results that you can get. Usually results are fail, which is a negative thing, nothing happens, or a squeak, which means you barely passed it, or a success. And then there's a fop, a failure of painful proportions. That's the worst thing that can happen on each of these. And then there's an amaze, which is the best success that you can have. And you'll notice there's numbers down here at the bottom. Depending on how high your honor is, you can get extra bonuses, which you would then draw a card to see what the bonuses would be, again, on the challenge card. And so these challenge cards are used a lot. They're used in combat. When you attack somebody else, you will compare your fighting skill to their defense skill to see if you hit them or not, looking at this column here. And then you'll compare your strength skill, your damage skill, to their armor. And then you will apply damage equal to this here. And this is not something that's completely easy to explain here in this video, because the game probably takes 20 to 30 minutes to explain. I'm just trying to give you a quick overview. Now, what players are doing here is they're running around and they're trying to accomplish these missions, because the way you play Duel of Ages is you play to a time limit, or you play to a turn limit. It depends, if you're playing with someone who would drag a turn out just to win, you want to play to a turn limit. So you can play 12 rounds, or you can play 2 hours, or whatever. At the end of that time, whoever has more points is the winner. Each of these labyrinths here is worth a point to whoever has more tokens in that labyrinth. So if I, in the future labyrinth, have 2 white tokens and the black player only has 1 token, then I get 1 point for being ahead in this labyrinth. And so there's 4 labyrinths on the board, although there's a possibility of having other labyrinths like this Lith key over here. Each player also has a base which you can go to and get cards from, and interrogate prisoners. You can capture people and put them in your base, but you can go attack your opponent's base. So whoever's done more damage to their opponent's base also gets a point. And then whoever's accomplished more of these missions that are scattered across the board, these little challenges, gets a point. And then finally, whoever's beaten up the other team more gets a point. You get a point for each person that's wounded, and points for people that you've captured and put into prison. The game revolves all around all these different cards here, and there's many different cards in the game. There's 4 decks of cards for the Modern, Ancient, Colonial, and Future Labyrinth, and each of those has all sorts of challenges with humorous text when you fail or pass them, and different types of challenges that you will have to go through. Many of these challenges will give you cards. Most of the cards you will be drawing from this common deck or this secret deck, although you can if you get 2 card draws, you can draw 1 elite card, which is basically better common equipment. Some characters also start with henchmen, which are basically weaker characters that you can use that run around the board and fight for you, but if your character gets hurt or died, these henchmen will disappear. But there's a whole pile of henchmen here. The common equipment is a lot of fun on how it works, because this is how a lot of its weapons to attack other players, and it will show you. But all the common equipment has requirements here. This one requires at least a 5 strength and at least a 2 intelligence. So your strength and intelligence ratings are very important, because you won't be able to equip these cards if you don't have it. Also, if you have this icon on your card, remember way back I showed you one character with a sniper rifle? If you have that icon on your character, then you get whatever bonus the card says. So the bonuses are printed right on the card. For example, this buckler here, it gives you +2 in melee armor if you have that. It gives you +2 anyway, but another +2 if you are excellent with armor. So you can see there's all sorts of different things here. Here's a laser gun, here's some boots, here's a nightclub, here's a submachine gun, a morning star. There's cubes that are one-time use, repeating crossbows. There are beasts that you can unleash on the field that will chase after opponents. There's a yellow dog with rabies. So there's all sorts of things. Plasma swords, knives, nunchucks, atom slicer blades, accelerator tubes, a hatchetback to chase your opponent, sniper rifle, a sniper sentinel that you can set up and then will just shoot at people on the board. A trench helmet from World War I. A light bender armor. And really, I mean, it would take me a long time to show you. That's just from the common stuff. From the secret, there's these one-time use cubes that you can use. There are special secret missions that you can get that you have to go and accomplish, or achievements. that if you do this, you can put it in front of you and it will become, it's worth a victory point at the end of the game. A badge, which can change your stats, or just different kinds of weapons. Things that you can ride that will increase your speed. There's all sorts of cool things in both piles, in both the secret and common, although neither one of them is as cool as the stuff in the elite, which is really good stuff here. A hover skid, which I can drive around the board. The showstopper grenade, the squeaker, the ion discharger, the chainsaw. Come on, who doesn't want to run around with one of those? And so you can have these, you can trade them between your characters. You can steal them from other people. If you kill someone and drop them, you can take them from them. So I know that was a very basic overview of how to play the game, and even that took quite a bit to show you, but there is so much going on. The game itself is not that complicated once you start playing it, because you're simply just concentrating on your characters to see what they can do. How is William Wallace going to go around and handle the different abilities? Is it better for me to give him a sniper rifle and start shooting other people to go down hand-to-hand combat, or should he go and try to accomplish some of these goals, these adventures around the board? And what's the best way to work as a team? Should I have someone defend my base, or should I have someone go attack the enemy's base? You have a lot of characters. You can play in teams where each person will control several characters on a team. But overall, at the end of a certain time limit or turn limit, whoever has the most achievements or points is the winner of the game. Do you need Duel of Ages 2 and the Master Set? Well, if you've never played before, just get this. Don't get the Master Set. See what you think of this. This is enough to play the game and enough variety. And you can add the Master Set in later if you want to. But I'll talk more about comparisons of those in my next video. But for here, Melody never played Duel of Ages, the first one, because I think when it came out, you were 3. All right? So, we just never played it, but you have had a chance to play Duel of Ages 2. So, let's start out by talking about your general thoughts on the game itself.
I really liked this game. It felt a little bit like HeroScape, except for the part that you didn't have to try to attack the other people, and you have to get the quest instead to get more points. It was a lot of fun. I liked all those different characters and how you had to try to use their abilities and see if they matched the quest to make it easier.
There are so many different characters, especially when you include it in the Master Set. Even in the regular game, how many characters came in this one again? 48 characters. That is a ton of combinations. You add another 100-some characters, and the characters all are really different. You know, the one character's a brute, a boxer. Another character's a quarterback, so you give him a grenade and he can really throw that thing. Another character is basically, he's not called it, but he's the guy from The Princess Bride who said, "You killed my father, prepare to die." You have Princess Sunglow. There's, who's your favorite character?
The pile of wee wax.
I think you just like to say that. Pile of wee wax. And one of the things that you mentioned, and I mentioned, you really liked the fact that there was a lot of female characters.
Yeah, I think there were more females, or maybe if you took out the monsters, there might have been more females than males.
Who knows? Some of those monsters is hard to tell. Maybe they were female. But the replayability of this is great. Like, for example, I like playing it for the adventure, but I love attacking. You weren't as big on attacking. You like to go out and do the different adventures and things.
I got more points that way.
Well, and the game does provide that. One of the things is this isn't a game that takes forever because you can determine the time of the game. This is a blast. This is not a game for everyone. This is not a super simple game. This is higher on the complexity level. But the thing I love about Duel of Ages, and when I go back, I remember this is one of the first reviews I ever wrote was Duel of Ages, and I was so excited to write it because Duel of Ages just tells a story. I mean, when we talk about it, we don't say, "Remember that time that you put 3 guys over here and rolled a 6?" No. In this one, we say, "Hey, remember that time I ran out and I threw the grenade and it blew up and over there, and then you went and fought the dinosaurs?" And we tell these stories because they're really interesting. Or Melody unleashed a wolf that chased my guy. My boxer was beating her guy, and the wolf chased the boxer away. Stuff like that.
Isn't that a dinosaur?
Oh, yeah. Stuff like that is really entertaining, and the combinations in this, especially when you include in the Master Set, are huge. Good quality components. The variety is lifetime. Well, I'm not saying that you can play this game and be different, for the next several years. If you play this game, especially when you include the Master Set, you will never play the same game twice. Ever. It is mathematically impossible. And there are so many different things that can happen, so many different combinations of equipment. And I would imagine in a year or two, you'll see more stuff come that you can add. They said they were going to have more characters, but we don't even need them. There's so many as it is. It has a big graphical update from the original one. Like I said, go watch my video on the comparisons for that. And it isn't the cheapest game in the world, so there's that involved. But one I very much like, easily in my top 10 games of all time. Completely replaced Duel of Ages 1. It's gone. This one is fantastic. What about you?
I love this game.
All right. So that is 2 or 4 or lots of thumbs up from us. Duel of Ages 2.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.